Hi, I'm Greg Fordyce of Old Graveyards. Today I'm going to be exploring Humiston Cemetery in rural Knox County, Illinois, located midway between Galesburg and Abingdon. The cemetery is named after Elisha Humiston, one of the earliest settlers of this area, and he purchased the land on which the cemetery sits in 1834. So let's head out, try to find this place. You're driving south on 41 right now. Galesburg is about 1.5 miles behind me. Abingdon is about 5 miles ahead. And looking for Knox County 1000 North. Somewhere out here. Gotta be getting close now. Gotta be around here. So I flew past it, missed my turn. I'm now heading back north. This is not an easy road to find. I think this is it right here. Yep, this is it. This is not so much a road, I would call it a farm equipment track between two fields. A little bit of gravel, but mostly dirt. Not want to try this after a lot of rain. Basically down to grass road. This is it up ahead here. Well, I believe this is it. Yep, this is it. All right, we have arrived at Humiston Cemetery. You can see it's a well-mowed track that leads down to the gates, which are locked for some reason, despite the fact that there's a sign that says open till dusk, from dusk till dawn. Anyway, and then once beyond that, there's a path that leads up about a quarter of a mile to the cemetery itself. So we're going to head down there. Okay. Open dawn to dusk. And yet, padlocked. That's all right. We'll go around. And I am being eaten alive by mosquitoes. There it is. All right. Alicia Humiston was born on November 5th, 1776 in Litchfield, Connecticut, and as I said, was one of the earliest pioneers of what is now Knox County, Illinois. He married Elizabeth Hartshorn in New York, but she died before he moved to Illinois. He moved to this area in 1834 and began farming the land that he had purchased around here. Hartson Humiston, Alicia's son, was born in 1805 in New York and married Mary Church in 1832 in Shenango, New York. Cyrus John Humiston, Hartson's only son, was born in 1833 in Broome County, New York, along with 4 sisters. And in 1850, Hartson moved their family to Knox County, Illinois, here near the town of Abingdon, to be near his father. The family farmed the land, and Alicia had set aside this area of their land for the purpose of a family cemetery. Alicia died on November 28, 1851, and is the first of the family to be buried here. Now, there appear to be some discrepancies about the dates of his first and second wife's deaths. Alicia's first wife, Elizabeth, is recorded as having died in 1809 in New York, but yet her name appears on the original Illinois cemetery deed in 1846. Family records also exist stating that his second wife, Betsy Noble, was with him when he moved to Illinois in 1834, with whom he had 4 more children, and that she moved to Wisconsin following his death in 1851, which is where she's buried. I don't know, I leave that up to the genealogists or the family historians to clear up. But Alicia's son Hartson died here in 1878 and his wife in 1888, and both of them are buried in the Humiston family cemetery here next to his father. Hartson's son Cyrus married Elizabeth Ann Weir in 1856 in Monmouth, Illinois, which is just about 15 miles west of here. They had 11 children. Cyrus served in the Union in the Civil War from 1861 to 1862 in Company D of the 7th Illinois Cavalry Regiment under Captain Knight Wolsey. He was discharged honorably on September 13, 1862 due to a lung disorder. While Cyrus was enlisted, his wife moved in with her father and then moved with him and her children to Newton, Kansas. Cyrus apparently had abandoned his family by this time and made no attempts to reconnect with his wife and children in Kansas. There are family stories that he was a loner and a drifter and heavy drinker. When he applied for his Civil War pension, he was unable to name all of his children or where they were living. In 1884, Elizabeth filed for divorce from Cyrus in Kansas, and since Cyrus never showed up, was granted the divorce. She struggled to support her family for years, dying in 1909, and she's buried in Newton, Kansas. All 11 children lived and died in Kansas, except one in Chicago, one in Oklahoma, and one in Colorado. And it was at the Colorado residence that Elizabeth died while visiting. None of them ever saw their father again. Now, Cyrus remarried in 1886 to Ruth Ellen Morrison, but she died 5 months later on March 12, 1887. After that, he lived alone in a rented farmhouse in Brush Creek, Illinois, about 5 miles from here. And on November 30th, 1902, Cyrus killed himself by setting the barn on fire and burning to death. His obituary states that he had been despondent for a long time and had been drinking heavily. He's also buried in the Humiston family cemetery here, near his father, where the funeral service was also held. The cemetery was originally deeded by Alicia for this purpose on December 2, 1846. The cemetery's first burial was allegedly a young girl who died while her family was moving westwards and was stopping over in the area, and the parents received permission from Alicia to be interred in his cemetery, although I have not been able to corroborate this or locate her gravestone. Alicia was the first of the family to be buried here, and the last burial here was in the 1950s. Obviously, many of the Humiston family is buried here. The original settler Alicia, his son Hartson, Hartson's wife Mary, Keliah and Phoebe, daughters of Alicia and Elizabeth, and Cyrus, Hartson's son. The majority of the other graves here are relations of the Humistons, either directly or by marriage, close family friends, neighbors that knew them, and other relations. Several graves here represent family members of other very renowned early pioneers of this area. Illegible. Two lonely gravestones over here. I'm guessing a husband and wife. Really can't make that out. Nope, can't make those out. Need some serious grave cleaning on those. No idea who's buried there. Evoda, that's an interesting name. Cannot make out the last name. She died in 1866, December 1st. That's actually not in bad shape, and probably because it's tilted in such an angle that it doesn't get a lot of moisture on it. The rain runs off instead of coating it. You can see it's at an angle. And when you look at the other side that's exposed to the elements, completely covered in mold and mildew. And yet that side is in surprisingly great shape because it's sheltered from the elements. That one died April 1st, 1868, I think. Aged 9 months and 4 days, so this was an infant. Unfortunately, it's broken off and I can't make out the name. Not in bad shape, except for a little verdigris up there. And I don't see the top of it, so I'm assuming someone either stole it or maybe the owner of the current owner of the land took it away. That's unfortunate. Can't make a thing out about that one. Completely illegible. There was a top piece to this, but a header on it and it's gone. I can't make that out. What does that say? I just can't make it out. I could do a rubbing. Try Tribly? Something like that, I'm not sure. Again, that could use some serious grave cleaner. And two more, another one busted off. And again, I don't see the top part anywhere. I'd like to know what's happening to these, if the busted off portions are being stolen, or if they've just been removed by the owner. I don't know. That's odd that they wouldn't leave the top portion next to the stone. And this one is pretty illegible as well. Here we have a Familenter grave. One of the early pioneers of this area was the Familenter family. Jacob, born 1833, died 1904. That's another name that's well known in this part of the state. Ditto with this over here, Stiegel. Another early pioneering family in Knox County in this area. Frederick, 1827, and his wife Lavina, 1833. Of course, being marble, that's in excellent shape. Warren, of course, is another very well-known family, another early pioneer of this area. In fact, Warren County is named for this family. John Warren here, his wife Mary, George, son of John and Mary, also buried here next to him. Again, marble in really great shape. It's a beautiful gravestone. Stone that has not done well. It's not busted, it doesn't look like, but boy, that's completely illegible. No idea who was buried here. Something under the weeds here. This one is busted off and sunken down and completely illegible. That would need to be pulled up out of the earth, cleaned off, and again, I don't know what's happening to the broken off pieces of these tombstones. Usually they would set them near the tombstone itself, but they're not doing so. I usually see broken off tombstones in these kind of graves, these old graveyards, but they have enough respect for the deceased to leave the broken off portion next to the original tombstone. I don't know, that's very odd. Wow, that one is completely illegible. Completely illegible. Completely illegible. This looks like the base. Yep, the base of a tombstone, and again, top portion nowhere to be found. Died in 1859. This is aged 43 years, 6 months, and 13 days. Can't make out the name. Last name is Bradley. Illegible. I believe it says, is that Ida? Ida B. Again, it's sunken down into the earth. Oh, I can't really make that out. Norton Corson, born 1796. Wow. Died, let's say, August 25th, 1863, I believe. I believe so. That grave is in excellent shape for as old as it is. Here we have Patterson's. That's another well-known name in this area. 1819 to 1860, George. Sarah, 1826, and no death date, which means she was either buried elsewhere. Well, probably she was buried elsewhere. Here we have a family plot. Looks like another Stiegel plot, I believe. Yeah, Stiegel. Elizabeth Bowman, wife of Elson Stiegel. Very edge of the cemetery, we have two small graves that I can't read. Usually the smaller stones mean children. Illegible. legible. There's a stone. Again, it's here, but it's completely toppled over. You can see. I can't make the Peter Van something. If I had to guess, I'd say Van Fleet, but I can't see it. And the stone itself. Oh boy, it's heavy. Well, I flipped it over and I was wrong. The earth has created a lot of, it needs to be cleaned off, and I think there's some mold on there, but it's kind of an interesting gravestone. Looks like there's a hand with a finger pointing upwards, which I assume means to heaven. And I cannot make out the name. Gone Home, I believe it says. Now here is a Humiston gravestone. I believe this is Elisha Humiston. Yep. Make it out. Elisha. Elisha Humiston. Can't really make out the dates, but here is Elisha's gravestone. I'm going to clean this up with my grave cleaning solution. It's actually not too bad shape when you consider it's over 160 years old. And I think that says Phoebe. That would be Elisha's daughter, buried next to him. I'd like to clean that one up as well. And I believe this is Keliah, his other daughter. Again, I'm going to clean this up with grave cleaner, so we can make out some more of the details on it. That looks like a base of a gravestone, but I don't see any tombstone anywhere around. It's too bad. I'm guessing another Humiston. And here is Mary G. Humiston. This would be Hartshorn's wife, Elisha's son. So this would be Elisha's daughter-in-law. Yep, you can make that up fairly clearly. August 10th, 1888. I'm guessing this must be her husband's grave, but again, I don't see a stone anywhere. That's too bad. Unless this is it. It says, I can make out Humiston. Oh, Cyrus. Okay. This is Cyrus Humiston's grave. Yes. Be cleaning this one up with grave cleaner as well. So this would be Mary's son and Elisha's grandson. Okay, the next step is to take my Revive, which is a masonry cleaner, also works on metal and glass and wood, excellent on gravestones. Take my solution up to the cemetery and see if we can't clean off some of those gravestones and clean them up a bit. So I'll get started on cleaning the gravestones. We're going to start with Elisha's, and move on to Phoebe, his daughter, and then on down to the other members of the Humiston family. Get those first. Again, what I use is Revive masonry cleaner, gravestone cleaner, and it's mixed at 2 parts solution and 5 parts water. For some of the other gravestones that are really bad, I'm probably going to have to do about a half and half solution. And then once it's thoroughly cleaned with this, I scrub it with a brush. After that, I rinse it off with some water. And it takes about 2 weeks to really do its work. So I'll come back in about 2 weeks and we'll see how clean they are. supposed to rain in a couple days, so that'll help rinse. All right, looks a little better. Now, like I said, it'll take about 2 weeks. The solution will continue to work. It does not kill the grass around the stones. And hopefully in about 2 weeks, that'll look a lot better. Gonna move on to his daughter Phoebe's stone. Really? I'll see how that looks in 2 weeks. Okay, so this is Delia's stone. Alicia's other daughter, Phoebe's sister. The grass, which I've ripped out, was protecting the bottom, so wouldn't it be nice if we could get the top to look like the bottom? That's the idea, or close to it. All right, we're going to move on to Mary, Alicia's son, Hartson's wife. This one really doesn't need much cleaning. It's in excellent shape. But I'm going to clean it up anyway. And we will move on to Cyrus's gravestone. Should have done the trimming first. Since he was a veteran, he has a veteran stone. Got a chip here missing from the corner. Wearing the safety goggles because you do not want to get this in your eyes. It is extremely toxic to flush. There we go. Cyrus J. Humiston. Now you can make out 7th Illinois Cav, Company D. There's a lever in them. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get it. Cleaner will just have to do its job for the next 2 weeks. Well, at least you can read it. That is it for me for today. Now we're going to let the grave cleaning solution do its work, and we'll be back in 2 weeks to see how those gravestones look. Returning 2 weeks later to Humiston Cemetery. See what the grave clean solution has done for our gravestones. Okay, so here is Alicia Humiston's gravestone after 2 weeks of the solution working. As you can see, although it is an improvement, it's not as big of an improvement as I was hoping for. I mean, you can make out the name a lot clearer. But there's still a lot of verdigris on that. In other words, a stronger solution probably should have been used. I mean, it's definitely improvement, but again, at least we got the owner of the original Pioneer. His tombstone looks really good. Not as good as I'd like, but it still looks a lot better than it did. And his daughters looks a lot better than they did. And Cyrus. Well, that takes care of our tour of Humiston Cemetery. I'm glad that we were able to clean up the family's tombstones, at least improve them over the way they used to look. Again, I'll probably do another cleaning at some point in the next few weeks with a stronger ratio on that solution. See if I can get them cleaned up a little more. But I am glad that we were able to get them cleaned up to the point we can actually read them now. And one thing I wanted to point out that I'd forgotten to do earlier, you'll notice that Alicia's last name is spelled with an A, Humiston, instead of an I, as all the others are, and the name that the cemetery goes by now, which is Humiston. That's pretty common with old family names. Or when you go back far enough, the spelling of the names changes quite a bit from its current spelling. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this tour of this rural Knox County cemetery interesting, and I hope you watch again. Thank you.